Do you know that one of the greatest transformations in sports history didn't happen in a giant stadium or inside a wealthy, state-of-the-art academy? It happened in a rundown orphanage with nothing but hope, broken shoes, and a teacher who simply refused to give up. His name was Jose de Jesus Morales, but everyone called him Chuco, and the world, for a long time, almost forgot him. This incredible story begins in the late 1960s in a small, forgotten orphanage in Mexico. Inside its walls lived 12 young boys. They were abandoned, unwanted, and invisible to the rest of society. They had no family, no real future, and absolutely no one expecting them to become anything at all. But then, Chuco arrived. He was a young teacher with a soft voice and a stubborn, unshakable belief that no child is useless. He looked at these boys, and he saw something in them that no one else had ever bothered to see. He saw potential. He noticed how they would race each other in the dusty, cracked yard of the orphanage, bare feet pounding the hard earth, torn shirts flapping in the wind, their laughter mixing with the constant ache of hunger. He saw a spark. So one day, he gathered them all together. He looked them in the eyes and said something that would change their lives forever. If you run with your heart, you can outrun your past. And with those words, an impossible dream began. Chuco formed a running team. Now, think about this. They had no proper running shoes. They had no track to practice on. They had absolutely no money and zero support from anyone outside the orphanage walls. Their training ground was the steep, rocky hillside behind the building. Their stopwatches were the long shadows cast by the sun moving across the ground. But every single morning, long before the sun even thought about rising, those 12 boys were out there, and they ran. At first, they ran simply because Chuco asked them to. It was another chore, another part of their structured day. But soon, something shifted. They started running because it made them feel free. For those few hours, they weren't just orphans trapped behind walls. They were soaring, they were powerful, and then they started running for a new reason. For the very first time in their young lives, they began to believe they could be more than what the world told them they were. Chuco was more than just a coach. He taught them discipline. He taught them how to build physical strength. But more importantly, he forged them into a brotherhood. He taught them about dignity. He would tell them over and over, champions are not born. They are built step by step with sweat and with heart. Of course, the outside world thought it was a joke. The idea of a team of poor orphans competing in actual races, it was laughable. Reporters mocked them. Officials told Chuco to stop dreaming and be realistic, but he ignored them all. He believed in his boys, and that was all that mattered. Then, in 1969, the unbelievable happened. The boys entered a major youth marathon in Mexico. Everyone, and I mean everyone, expected them to lose miserably. They showed up to the starting line looking completely out of place. They wore mismatched, worn-out shoes. Some of them had even fashioned sandals tied together with bits of wire. The other teams, from elite clubs and private schools, stared and whispered. But once that starting whistle blew, all the whispers stopped. They ran like fire. They ran like every single mile was a story of their survival. They ran as if they were literally chasing a new life that was waiting for them at the finish line. And when they finally crossed that line, it wasn't in last place. It wasn't even in the middle of the pack. They finished first, second, third, fourth, and kept coming one after another, stunning the entire crowd into a deafening silence. The Orphans had done the impossible. They had beaten every single elite team in the entire country. News of their victory spread like wildfire. People started calling them Los Pequeños Gigantes, the Little Giants. Over the next few years, those same 12 boys went on to win competitions not just across Mexico, but internationally. Some of them became national champions. Others grew up to become coaches themselves, passing on the lessons they learned. They became soldiers, businessmen, and community leaders, men with bright futures they had never, ever dared to imagine for themselves. And at the very heart of it all was one teacher. One man who walked into an orphanage and refused to see a room full of broken children. Instead, he saw champions just waiting to be discovered. Chuco Morales never became famous in the way we think of fame today. He never sought glory or recognition. He never asked for money or praise for what he did. His life's work was the success of his boys. His story remains a hidden masterpiece, a powerful testament to human transformation. It is a profound reminder that true greatness doesn't come from a life of comfort or privilege. It comes from belief. It comes from having that one right person in your corner who looks at you and says, "I see you. I believe in you." It's about turning pain into purpose and turning a group of strangers into an unbreakable family. Because sometimes the strongest athletes, the greatest champions, aren't the ones who are born with natural gifts. They are the ones who are running to escape the darkness behind them and sprinting toward the light that someone, like Chuco, placed in their hearts. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more stories that deserve to be told. See you next time.